It's just an MMO that doesn't neglect it as an afterthought like so many other MMOs do. So I think the main concern people have when considering to play Throne and Liberty is wondering, is this just going to be another one of those big Asian MMOs that's just all about PvP and I'm not going to enjoy it? But that's not necessarily true at all. I think one main problem is people look at new MMOs through the lens of an other MMO that they already play. Largely World of Warcraft, let's be honest, as obviously many people do play it. In fact, in order for any new MMO to succeed, developers really do have to strategize a method to steal a little bit of the World of Warcraft audience and other big MMOs. But this is the problem. People have the expectation that an MMO can't be good unless it follows this World of Warcraft format, which is very ironic considering World of Warcraft has massively lost sight of what makes the MMO genre unique. Throne and Liberty is also a free-to-play MMO, so you can't really run into the game expecting it to absorb your time as much or have the same content flow as a subscription-based MMO. And this is why free-to-play MMOs usually focus on player-driven content like open-world PvP and guild rivalries. But this doesn't mean that the game doesn't have any PvE content, in fact there's quite a lot. There's also a lot more on the way if you look at the roadmap, and there's even some very casual-friendly solo content. Very soon next week, guys, I am going to be making a big first impressions video of this game as I have played it quite a lot now. It's just in the development process, so be sure to subscribe to your channel so you don't miss that video when it is uploaded. First we have the Adventure Codex. This is the main storyline that you follow in the game, although it isn't 100% linear, because every chapter now and again will branch out into its own little mini storylines. Now that I've played a good 5 chapters of the main storyline, I can confidently say that this is a very high quality cinematic experience that wouldn't be out of place in a good solo RPG, so I think solo casual players will definitely enjoy leveling in this game. You will notice that the leveling itself isn't go and kill 20 boars, go and pick up 20 grapes. The quests are sometimes a little bit like that, but way less grindy, and it focuses more on, well, just being interesting. Sometimes you're on a bit of a murder mystery, sometimes you're inside a monolith doing some puzzles, and then other times you are infiltrating a goblin tribe by doing some dancing moves. It really doesn't feel like you're on some kind of treadmill, jumping from quest hub to quest hub and grinding out enemies. Next we have the Taedal's Tower, if that's how it's pronounced, which is a solo episodic campaign instance starting at level 15 and continuing all the way to level 50. There are bosses inside to defeat that are all pretty good loot, and you will return at specific level ranges if you wish to finish off the remaining bosses. In fact, when you're following the main storyline, there are also these mini solo instances to complete also. At endgame, this individual instance can actually scale up and turn into the Gate of Affinity, with bigger damage, bigger health pools, and new boss mechanics to make it more challenging, with also obviously increased rewards, also if you complete the instance within certain time windows. Next we have the Dimensional Circle dungeons. They're basically dungeons with 6 players, there's 3 leveling instances and 6 endgame instances, although there's actually a little bit more. 3 might seem a little bit low, but you do level up incredibly fast in this game compared to other MMOs, and you can jump into these with a little built-in dungeon finder in the game. These dungeons can scale up to different difficulties, like for instance tier 2, which is basically like your heroic dungeon. At this difficulty, 5 more instances are also unlocked. And on top of this you have challenge dungeons, which are essentially Mythic Plus dungeons, and they go all the way up to level 30. And at tier 5, 9 and 13 it will introduce new mechanics on the bosses, and these instances also have affixes which are going to change on a weekly basis. Now you may be afraid of the open world in this game as it is a PvP game, but at certain times of the day the open world events and the open world dungeons are in what's called a peaceful mode, meaning it is purely PvE. I have managed to get myself into one of these open world dungeons. It's basically like walking into an instance, but that world is shared with other players in the world, and they are pretty impressive. Bosses and other secrets to discover, and these instances are definitely much easier when you are in a group. The open world events are also in peaceful mode sometimes. From playing the game, yeah, you do get a lot of these open world events where there's no PvP involved, and they usually require you to clear waves of enemies, gain some kind of resource, or compete with all the other players doing the event. There's also many huge world bosses to defeat in the open world. This game is much more focused on open world raid bosses rather than instance raid content. That's not to say that there isn't any instance raid content. The instance raid content takes the form of guild raids. As far as I know, you can only do them in a guild group rather than pug them, and when you level up your guild, you unlock more raid bosses to kill. It's an interesting way of really encouraging guild interaction, cooperation, and investment. You'll also notice that there's guild-specific open world quests that can be completed as a guild to level up your guild. You've got your player house to customise, you've got cooking, you've got fishing, and there's also a little bit of a garrison influence follower system where you assign followers to go and complete tasks. Now I think one final note to end on is this game isn't an MMO that focuses on PvP. It's just an MMO that doesn't neglect it as an afterthought like so many other MMOs do. When done proper, MMO PvP is some of the greatest competitive multiplayer content you can possibly experience, and that doesn't necessarily mean that an MMO that provides a lot of good PvP content is crap for PvE players. Definitely not the case with Throne and Liberty, so you can rest your mind on that one. But that being said, I think most players would benefit from having a little bit of an open mind to try out the PvP content because it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway guys, until my next video, ciao.